Let me tell you something that sounds made up, like the start of a bad joke or a twisted prank. Except it actually happened to me in broad daylight with half my so-called friendly neighbors watching and laughing through their camera phones. Picture this. I come home from a long business trip, bone-tired, just wanting to kick off my shoes and eat something that isn't shrink-wrapped. And what do I find? My own front gate, the one I paid for, the one with my name on the deed, is chained up tighter than Fort Knox. Massive chain, industrial-grade padlock. Bright orange notice access denied, like I'm some kind of outlaw on my own land. Welcome home, right? Yeah, that happened. You know, it's funny, before all this, I was just another neighbor. 4 years in Riverside, nodding hellos, borrowing hedge trimmers, trading Christmas cookies, talking about the weather and property taxes. Suddenly, I was entertainment something for the local neighborhood watchers group to live stream. Mrs. Patterson next door, she's already at her window with her phone out, streaming my humiliation like she's Anderson Cooper. Her teenage daughter joins her, both of them double angles, making sure nobody misses the moment I have to scale my own fence in a business suit, tear my jacket and drop my briefcase so the whole lawn gets decorated with project plans and invoices like it's confetti at my own funeral. If you've never felt that flavor of humiliation, I hope you never do. There's nothing quite like realizing your neighbors have turned into vultures circling and waiting for something to die. And me. There I was, a grown man crawling over my own fence, feeling like a burglar in the one place that's supposed to be safe. Dignity left that snagged on a rusty spike next to the tear in my pants. When I finally got inside, past the silence, the stares, the camera flashes, I tried to process what the hell just happened. My own house felt hostile, like enemy territory. I called the HOA number printed on that orange violation notice, hands shaking from equal parts rage and embarrassment. I get this customer service voice that's all, "Mr. Reed, we've been expecting your call." Expecting my call, like they already knew I'd come home and find myself locked out, like they had a little betting pool going to see how long I'd last before I lost it. Apparently I'd violated some brand new regulation about gate design specifications. Regulation 47B to be exact. Never mind that nobody had ever notified me, and my gate had been approved when I moved in, inspected by the county, and never gotten a single complaint. The HOA lady on the phone, pleasant as a telemarketer, said my access was temporarily suspended. That word hung in the air like a loaded threat, polite and poisonous. I demanded answers. Who voted? When was this rule passed? What exactly was wrong with my gate? The reply was pure bureaucratic ballet, emergency sessions, safety standards, compliance, blah, blah, blah. She talked for 5 minutes and said nothing. When she hung up, I realized something inside me had changed. I was done playing nice. That's when I started noticing the real details. The new security camera across the street blinking its little red light right at my front door, recording every second of my walk of shame. I'd never seen that camera before, never got any notice about security upgrades. I dug through my stack of old HOA letters, and guess what? Not a single mention of gates or cameras or access restrictions. All I found were reminders about trash cans, grass height, and what color you're allowed to paint your mailbox. But now, magically, my gate was the enemy, and the HOA was prepared down to the minute. I pulled out the violation notice again, time-stamped for 11:47 p.m. 2 days ago. They knew I was out of town for work. They waited for me to leave. The chain on the gate still shiny like it had just been installed. This wasn't some spontaneous overreach. This was a performance, and I was both the main act and the audience. So I started connecting the dots, and it hit me. This wasn't about gates or safety. This was about power, control, sending a message to everyone in Riverside that the new HOA boss, Mrs. Claudia Frost, was in charge now. The next morning, I didn't waste time. I walked into the HOA office like a man on a mission. Beige walls, bad lighting, and a receptionist who barely glanced up, already guessing what I was there for. "You're here about the gate," she said, like she was reciting the menu at a drive-thru. "Mrs. Frost will see you in 5 minutes." I knew right then I wasn't their first rodeo. They'd done this before. When Claudia Frost appeared, She looked exactly how you'd expect a lifelong bureaucrat to look: silver hair, pulled tight, law degree on the wall, handshake like a cold fish. She smiled with her mouth, but her eyes were pure winter. "Mr. Reed, I'm sorry for your inconvenience." She actually used that word, inconvenience, like getting locked out of your own home is the same as missing your morning paper. She pulled out a fat folder of regulations, somehow produced overnight, then slid me a business card. Frost Construction, specializing in HOA compliance upgrades. Price $3, $200, all in, including permits. From her office, naturally. I pointed out the obvious conflict of interest. She barely blinked. "You're free to use another contractor, but you'll need our specifications. There's a processing fee, of course." I demanded meeting minutes, attendance records, proof of this so-called emergency session. She stonewalled with legalese. "Minutes are private until reviewed by counsel. Legal review is backlogged. Basically pay up or wait forever." Then I spotted a map half hidden on her desk. 4 houses circled in red: mine, Mrs. Chambers' place, 2 streets over the Prestons with their 2 little kids, and Mr. Barnes, the retired vet with the perfect garden. Note scribbled in Claudia's hand: non-compliance, target, timeline, acquisition strategy. It was all right there. This wasn't about safety. This was a hit list. When I left, I was more angry than scared. Standing in that parking lot, it all made sense. Frost wasn't just wielding power. She was orchestrating a slow-motion purge, making life hell until we broke and left. But what she didn't count on, I wasn't just any project manager. I lived for complicated systems, finding the weak link, turning the tables. I dug deep that night: HOA, charters, amendments, every legal document I could find. Guess what? Regulation 47B required a 2/3 vote and at least 72 hours notice to all members. Frost's emergency meeting had just 8 out of 34 homeowners with less than 24 hours notice. That meant the whole thing was illegal, her own rules broken. I needed allies. So the next day I started knocking. First up, Mrs. Chambers, a widow with a garden full of 8-foot hollyhocks, 30 years in the making. She was nearly in tears as she told me the HOA had ordered her to tear them out, sightline hazard. They said $4,800 to remediate. That garden was her whole life, planted after her husband died. And now it was non-compliant. Next, the Prestons' young couple, 2 little ones. Their mailbox was 6 inches too close to the sidewalk by HOA standards, but moving it would violate city postal codes. They were stuck. Leave it and get fined $200 a day, move it, and lose mail service. They were literally packing boxes when I found them, planning to move in with family just to survive. Last, Mr. Barnes, the vet. He had a memorial garden, flags, plaques, names of friends lost overseas. The HOA told him to tear it all out, called it unauthorized decoration. His hands were fists, but his voice was heartbreak. "They want me to erase the memory of men who died for this country," he said, "so some HOA boss can boost her property values." That was the twist. 4 totally different families, all marked for removal, all for things that had been fine until now. But we had skills too. Mrs. Chambers knew every neighbor and every story. The Prestons' dad was a systems engineer, Barnes had military planning, and I knew how to fight bureaucracy with paperwork. That's when I found the final piece. The property deed for my house mentioned a weird little strip of land at the neighborhood entrance, technically not part of the HOA. Turns out that strip was up for sale, closing in 10 days. If someone bought it, they'd control access for all 89 homes in Riverside. You want a movie twist? Here's one. I emptied my savings, maxed my credit line, even took out a loan on my truck. I bought that strip out from under Gateway Holdings LLC, whose paperwork, by the way, traced right back to Frost Construction. Now I was the one holding the literal keys to the neighborhood. The next HOA meeting was packed: dozens of angry neighbors, TV reporters sniffing for a scandal. I stood up and laid out everything: illegal meetings, fraudulent regulations, shell companies, forced sales surveillance. Frost tried to shout me down, but by then her board had already started resigning. When I held up the deed to the entrance, her face drained white. She screamed about illegal property seizure, but nobody was listening anymore. Within a week, our attorney filed for a court injunction, freezing all enforcement actions. Frost tried one last Hail Mary emergency inspections to get us thrown out for safety, but she was running out of time, and her web of lies finally unraveled. Her own assistant flipped, providing a mountain of evidence, emails, bank records, surveillance reports. It was organized crime, plain as day. We took it all to court. Her lawyers painted me as a vigilante, but our civil rights attorney demolished every argument. The judge saw the truth. Frost had engineered a criminal enterprise to seize homes and profit through her construction company. The ruling banned her from ever running an HOA again, dissolved her business, ordered restitution, and restructured the whole association with real oversight. But here's the best part. 3 months later, we held elections for a new board. Mrs. Chambers now runs the Community Standards Committee. Her hollyhocks are in full bloom and nobody's tearing them out. The Prestons back in their home-run technology and communications, so nobody gets left out of the loop again. Mr. Barnes is in charge of real security, none of that intimidation stuff. And me, I still hold the remote for the main gate, but it's a shared system now, democratic, secure, and open to everyone who belongs. Our biggest test came when the new family moved into Frost's old house, a refugee family from Afghanistan. Some folks were nervous at first, but you know what? We welcomed them, invited them to community night, gave them the remote to the gate. Their daughter asked me why I'd trust them with it. I told her, because I know what it's like to be locked out of your own home. Now every morning that gate opens for everyone who belongs here. And that to me is justice, knowing nobody will ever feel like a stranger in their own neighborhood again. So here's my question for you when it comes to your home. Your community, what matters most? Control or belonging? Have you ever had to fight for your place or seen someone abused by the rules? Drop your stories and thoughts below. I want to hear what justice looks like where you live. And if you made it this far, don't forget to share your own experiences, because real community isn't built by who locks the gate, but by who opens it.